participants, welcome to the third session of Day 3 Room 1 presentations. In this session, we are hosting Professor NECATI AİRALIOİDLU from Antalya Bilim University, Turkey, Professor ELIF ÇOLAKOİDLU from the Gendarmerie and the Coast Guard Academy, Turkey, Nobel laureate Dr. AZHARI AHMED from Qatar, and Professor Abdelkader Larabi from Mohammed V University, Rabat, Morocco. Welcome, professors. As the first speaker, I would like to invite Professor ELIF ÇOLAKOİDLU from the Gendarmerie and Coast Guard Academy, Turkey, to deliver her speech.
Thank you, Dr. Mustafa Alas. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I want to preface what I said at this point by saying I'm proud to be on this platform here with these distinguished scholars and guests. And also, thank you, Professor Hüseyin Gökçekuş, for giving me this opportunity. I would like to begin my speech by honoring the legacy and memory of Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the founder of Turkish Republic. On the occasion of his death anniversary, we commemorate the resolute leader of Turkish the independence movement and its first president, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, with love and with respect. Thank you. Let me share and my screen. Sorry. Is it okay or not? Yes. Give me a second. Great. Today, I'm going to talk about the fundamental link between water and national security in Turkey. We will explain we will explain this in this context of the Euphrates and Tigris basin, which are important for the national security of Turkey's critical infrastructure. As part of the current diplomatic initiatives, our presentation attempts to compare the hydropolitics of the three riparian countries, Turkey, Syria, and Iraq. First and foremost, I'll explain water politics in the Middle East in general. Following that, I'll discuss the significance of the Euphrates and Tigris basin in Turkey. And then finally, we'll look at the three-stage plan as a model for water diplomacy in relation to the basin's water use. Well, in the Middle East, water insecurity is a known issue of the region. This insecurity affects directly the quality of life of the region's people, and it has the potential to create a threat to national security in terms of a source of conflict. And therefore, since the dawn of history, this natural resource is both to constitute one of the high policies and to consider and to issue under national security. From 14 countries in the region, only Iraq, Iran, Lebanon, and Turkey are located above the critical threshold. Using approximately 320 cubic meters of water per capita annually, Palestine has experienced significantly more water insecurity. Jordan and Israel have also same situation. For example, it is indicated that the 2% of the total water consumption of Syrian refugees constitutes in Jordan recently puts a serious pressure on its water resources. Forming appropriate infrastructure systems in order to ensure their high living standards and increasing of constantly water demand with new migrations, the countries such as Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates, as well as Israel, are among the countries with the lowest rates in terms of water resources. Nile, Jordan, Tigris, and Euphrates rivers are the most important rivers in the region. While a large of the region devoid of continuously flowing water, there are no shortages along these rivers, but it doesn't mean these countries cannot experience the water problems arising due to factors such as population, climate change, salinization, pollution in the future. On the other hand, the water wars scenarios in the Middle East come up continuously. However, this statement is essentially different, and real intents are hidden. These forces directing the capital intend to create a stressful area by raising the arguments of on water wars in the region. They are willing to take only this issue, which will be regionally qualified toward areas including themselves on an international scale. Therefore, they are a legitimate cover-up for their own imperialist purposes with these scenarios. If it is desired to achieve a lasting peace and to solve the water disputes in the Middle East, the implementation of a regional cooperation policy and strategy to reduce the interference to the subject of the dominators of the capital in the rest of the world outside the region is necessary, because it is clear that this issue has a regional character but not global. As the world's most water-scarce region, the Middle East has 5 main transboundary water bodies: the Euphrates and Tigris Basin, Jordan River Basin, Litani River Basin, Orontes River Basin, and Nile Basin. The region's countries where these river basins originated tend to try and take the most control over them. The Euphrates and Tigris Basin is one of the main basins in the region. The importance of the Euphrates and Tigris Basin comes from being the source of conflicts on distribution of the waters of rivers among the 3 countries, Turkey, Syria, and Iraq. As upstream country, Turkey has complete unilaterally control over the sources of both rivers and has advantaged the inability to use their water. Accordingly, Turkey has benefited by realizing large-scale irrigation and hydroelectric power generation projects in the basin, like other riparian countries, but its benefits conflicts with the other downstream riparian countries. Therefore, the countries have some problems occasionally arising water insecurity using an allocation, but the problems tending to grow persistently. What is the water potential of the Euphrates and Tigris Basin? The amount of the Euphrates and Tigris Basin is almost equal to that of the Nile River Basin. Turkey contributes 31 billion cubic meters of the Euphrates River. Only the remaining 11% comes from Syria, while Iraq doesn't have any contribution to the flow. The Tigris River's average annual flow of 49 billion cubic meters come from Turkey, while the rest of them originates from Iraq, but no Syrian waters drain into the Tigris. This means that Turkey, as the upstream riparian of both rivers, has the possibility to control this basin. Existing demands, the downstream countries for the Euphrates and Tigris rivers water don't reflect the reality, because these demands for the basin's water are unrealistic, because although they contribute very little, they want more water. However, On the other hand, the total annual water potential of both rivers is reduced. According to a study published in 2013 and carried out by NASA, by reviewing satellite images, dry spells, and climate change from 2003 to 2009, led to loss of 144 billion cubic meters of water from the Euphrates and Tigris basin. That's roughly equivalent to the volume of the Dead Sea. And this loss or trend will affect directly Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran in the region. Also, while the contribution of groundwater in the region to the demand for water is about 52%, the amount of actively drawn water was about 60% at the report. This situation, which was also revealed by NASA, is clear evidence of the scientific reality of climate change effect on this basin. Despite this, Turkey has always done its best to assist its neighbors in taking advantage of the available water. Also, despite this, Syria and Iraq are constantly complaining about us on regional and international platforms because Turkey doesn't provide them with water. However, they don't require more water. Rather, they require better water management in their own countries. Their countries' civil war and the other unrest must have to end. They are unable to provide adequate water services due to the ongoing civil war. This is a matter for those countries' internal issues. In this case, what are their positions, arguments, and views? Turkey, as an upstream country, has the chance to be able to control those rivers. It resolves to have benefited trying to carry out macro-scale irrigation with hydroelectric power, like other countries which have the cost to the rivers. All the arguments of Turkey about the transboundary Euphrates and Tigris basin provide right to water. Turkey supports equitable and reasonable use of the rivers, sharing benefits and refraining from causing significant harm to the countries. Also, Turkey is ready to discuss the question of the two rivers' waters with an integral approach and in all its dimensions. Since 1970s, when Turkey began building up big dams and institutions on the rivers, it has faced serious problems with both of the two countries, especially Syria. When the Karakaya Dam, as part of the Southern Anatolian project, has about one third of the total water potential of Turkey and includes 22 dams and 19 hydropower installations on the both rivers. Syria oppressed international foundations which finance the dam, such as International Monetary Fund and World Bank, liaising with Iraq, and they succeed somewhat. Also, Syria has supported terrorism to date and continually brought the Euphrates to the agenda. Turkey tried to prevent the demands Syria possessed on the city of Hatay by making the problem of Orontes River international known. Until the death of the President Hafez Assad, this policy of Syria continued after his son Bashar Assad became the president of the country. The policy changed a bit. Turkey-Syria relations entered a relatively recovery term over the reign of Bashar Assad. It has been propounded that they have abandoned the idea claiming that the city of Hatay is within their borders on maps to some degree, even if it's not official. On the relations with Turkey, those kinds of concrete steps have been taken. the dam to be built up on Orontes River is the most concrete indicator of that. In the framework of Memorandum of Understanding signed with Syria in November 2009, mutual visits and exchange of views were determined to done in order to improve collaboration based on sustainable progress, bottomed on water between two countries in the basin of the Euphrates and the Tigris. However, the change in relations between the two countries has become apparent since April 2011. Briefly, the continuous cooperation on water of both countries will become absolute when the Syria's internal balance is shaped. The joint project to set up a dam on Orontes River during Syria's internal disorder, even if the continuation of the Turkey's side of it is affected by this process, and the exemplary cooperation of the two countries is process of waiting for a while. Finally, Iraq rejects the problems derived from Tigris and being mutual negotiation subject between Syria and Turkey. It demands that the problems of the Euphrates and Tigris basin should be negotiated separately, and Syria shouldn't have a right to talk on the Tigris. For Iraq, its main reasons is that the Euphrates and Tigris basin is two different basins, and the Iraq has a preliminary access right to coming from history. The projects of Turkey lessening the water of the Tigris also irritate Iraq. Nevertheless, because of six project Turkey construct on the Tigris as part of the Southern Anatolia project, Iraq will not experience a significant loss of water, as that river basin is not appropriate for irrigated agriculture. These dams arranging the border of the Tigris have the goal of producing electricity. Therefore, this country doesn't give any damage to Iraq, and conversely, in favor of it. The main problem of both riparian Syria and Iraq arises essentially from their prejudices against Turkey. The unstable political situation in the region is only reflected in the bilateral and trilateral relations because their claims are unrealistic. The cause of the problems such as water supply, pollution, and sanitation has been originated from poor water management practices. And briefly, a real issue, is not being able to use more water, but situation of lack of qualified water. Briefly, the concern over their water management is not related to Turkey's allocation them with warm water, as claimed by their experts. Also, essentially, it is known by both Syria and Iraq, and also the international community, that these claims are unfounded. Therefore, Syria and Iraq should be quit their unreal claims and collaborative with Turkey for greater water diplomacy, which can help to improve mutual trust in the basin. Till today, the Turkish regime in the Euphrates and Tigris basin has based on bilateral agreements and the other legal and institutional arrangements among the riparian, and has substantially solved. Until the 1990s, Turkey has made several agreements that also remain well now with both riparian, but there have been remarkable developments since the year of 2010. There are relatively good relationships with all neighboring countries in Turkish foreign policy, and the region's positive political atmosphere reflect water policies. In the new millennium, the cooperation experienced a new impetus, resulting in several memorandums. joint communiques and other agreements overcoming water issues. These arrangements concentrate on establishing institutional mechanisms that promote democratic dialogue and negotiations, however, are bilateral. As it seems that there is still no tripartite agreement on allocation of waters on the basin among the riparian. Basically, these legal and institutional arrangements meet all the needs of the riparian. However, due to the short or long-term effects of changing environmental conditions, and the growing number of people living in the region, and the creating high pressure of these on the region countries, inability to turning to the tripartite agreement can lead to some disputes, and the basin countries are facing serious problems concerning their water policies at times. Whereas opportunities for cooperation and coordination on the basin level can be created. In this regard, there is a need for legislations based on integrated and sustainable development of the basin in the region. The three-stage plan with Syria and Iraq can be step which would lay the foundation for a strong agreement. This plan is to provide equitable and reasonable utilization of water of the basin for the people of the three riparian, and in this way the riparian can unite to solve challenging water issues. Its formal name is the three-stage plan for optimum, equitable, and reasonable utilization of transboundary water courses of Tigris and Euphrates basin. With this plan, Turkey aims to bring peace to the region and presents its opinions and attitudes on this issue in a judicious way. Also, the plan provides a change in quantity and quality of water resources in the basin can be continuously monitored. The plan is a strong step towards a triple agreement, establishing on a needs-based approach. The aim of the plan is to access a common goal as a result of all comparisons to optimum, equitable, and reasonable utilization of water of the Euphrates and Tigris basin, and proposes a three-stage process for its implementation. Accordingly, first stage towards resolutions should start with developing good relations and professional contact among the hydrologists from the riparian countries. Therefore, inventory proceedings about water resources would be determining the total water potential, including evaporation, temperature, and rainfall levels of the Euphrates and Tigris basin. Second stage, the inventory proceedings about irrigable lands is to determine the irrigation water needed in Turkey, Syria, and Iraq. And third stage is finally to allocate equitably the calculated amount of water according to the determined needs. In a brief, the plan essentially recommends the distribution of water in accordance with the needs of each riparian and their technological cooperation in an equitable, reasonable, and optimum manner. Consequently, this plan in 1984 was offered by Turkey for the ultimate development of Euphrates and Tigris basin in an equitable and reasonable context, has not been accepted by the other riparian. However, the plan would provide a holistic and integrated approach to the planning and management of basin and to its sustainable development. This plan was rejected by both Iraq and Syria, who feared it would jeopardize their sovereignty. Indeed, emphasizing sovereignty is an accusation that Turkey frequently faces in the international area. As a conclusion, we can say that Turkey has made major efforts based on good neighborhood relations so far, and also bears no political intention to act on a political or military basis against them. As a result of these efforts, the three-stage plan proposed by Turkey through the three-stage plan to be realized with the cooperation of the 3D Parian, the people of the region will use their resources for own interests. Moreover, it will greatly contribute to ensure peace in the region. Turkey is always ready for close cooperation with the countries of the region on the use of the Euphrates and Tigris rivers. And it's determined not to take side in potential case of conflicts arising on the basin, but also the plain is necessary for achieving sustainable development on the basin. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much for your valuable presentation, Professor ÇOLAKOİLLU. Thank you very much for stressing out very important issues and matters in our region.
Thank you.
Now I would like to invite Professor Larabi from Rabat, Morocco to deliver his presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Mustafa. So I will first try to share the presentation. It is shared. It is already shared, or I have to share it again?
If you can please share it, Professor.
Okay.
We cannot see it.
Can you see it?
Yes, it's perfectly fine now.
Okay, so thank you very much. Okay, so I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me for this conference, important conference, and I would like to deliver some results of the modeling the impacts of climate change on groundwater resources based on climate projections, and with some field application here in Morocco in order to share this result and to see when we compare it with other region in the Mediterranean area, because we are belonging to one region which will be more affected by climate change, and it's better that we can share all the results in order to see how things are going and what will be, for instance, the best measures for adaptation or attenuations. So this is I am happy to share with you these results, and I will start with the So, as well as you know, the Mediterranean region, and especially the Arab region, and the speakers before me gave a lot of insights about water resources scarcity in the Middle East region, and our Middle East region belonging to the Mediterranean region, a big part. And we know already that this region will experience an increase of temperature and also a decrease of precipitation. So, for instance, in the mid-century, when using, for instance, the scenario RCP 4.5, so temperature will increase 1 to 2 degrees on the average. For the end of century, it will reach around 3 degrees. And for RCP 8.5, which is the pessimist scenario, this will be more severe, and we will really get an increase of 2 to 3 degrees by the mid-century, and also by the end 4 to 5 degrees. So and this, of course, we will have a lot of influences, and water resources will be affected. And from this negative impacts, we can have reduction in natural recharge for the aquifers, and of course, because we will receive less precipitation, and also we will have a rise in temperature, and this will increase also evapotranspiration. And you see that things will not be very happy for recharging the aquifers. As you can see from this figure, this is show you already what will happen based on the climate models used in order to see in the future what will happen. So if you, for instance, we will take the coastal area, which are heavily urbanized in the Mediterranean region, so fresh water will be scarce because because of the population that increase, and also because of the industry that we will have, because we have to deliver water supply for industrials and also for drinking water, in addition to irrigation, because the Mediterranean region is very well known by its intensive agriculture along the coasts. And of course, we will suffer from intensive pumping, mainly in the coastal fringe, like we have here in Morocco, and also in the Mediterranean region in general. So this will induce risk of seawater intrusion in the aquifer freshwater, and our freshwater will be polluted, and we will have a lot of problems. And these problems will be exacerbated by climate change and the mean sea level rise. This will really increase the pollution of the aquifers by salt water, and also due to pumping. So that means that we will have more overexploitation of the aquifers, and due to also recurrent droughts, and if it is associated to the inappropriate management, of course, seawater intrusion will enter into the freshwater wells, and we will have such situation which is not happy, that the farms and pumping wells for drinking water on the coastal area will be abandoned. That happened already here in Morocco, and the farmers abandoned their exploitation around something like 6,000 hectares near Casablanca. You can imagine the situation that could really induce such problems. And this will result, of course, in serious socioeconomic consequences to the people living in this area. So, for instance, if we consider this area in Morocco located, for instance, on the Atlantic Ocean, as you can see here from this figure, and this is the area. It is something. The area is something around 4,000 square kilometers. And when extracted all the data from the climate models, we see that for the scenario RCP 4.5, you can see already the precipitation which are decreasing until the end of the century, and the same. The situation is more severe when we are taking, for instance, RCP 8.5, and you see that we have all the time decreasing of precipitation, I mean the trends, and you see already that we will have less precipitation in this area. So you can imagine, and of course, this will have some consequences on the groundwater recharge. So look here, for instance, for temperature. So the temperatures are mainly increasing for both scenarios in this region located in the west of Morocco on the Atlantic Ocean. So you can see already all the climate models that we used, 3 are selected, and you see correctly that the trends are increase of temperature. And of course, what will happen for the natural recharge for this aquifer? So the impacts cause recurrent droughts and decrease in the aquifer recharge, and this directly affects groundwater level. So we will have more drawdowns, and we will have a strong drop, and of course we will have increase of water depth, as demonstrated, for instance, in one of the well. And you can see all the time we have increase of the drawdown. So that means that the farmers, even we have groundwater existing in the aquifer, we will have more energy in order to pump it. So we will increase the cost, we will increase the energy, and all these things have a negative impact on the farmers, for instance, or for drinking water, depending on the water supply nature. So, for instance, if we take another region in Morocco located on the Mediterranean coast, for instance, Al Hoceima, just in front of Almeria in Spain, and you can see here for this region, we will have future droughts and the aridity trends based on the climate models. Especially, we are taking just the optimist scenario. Look what will happen. It's already the climate will change. So by the mid-century, the climate in this area, which is currently semi-arid, will become arid based on the climate data that we used. So you can imagine it becomes arid, so less precipitation, increase of temperature, and of course less water recharge for the aquifer. And you can see already here, for instance, this is the groundwater recharge. We can see already that the future aquifer recharge, which estimated based on the climate data, and especially for both scenarios, the pessimist and the optimist, and we can really estimate this groundwater recharge, which will become something around 3 million cubic meter per year, and 2.7 million cubic per year under for the period 21 to the mid-century, and from 2051 to 2080. We can imagine that the trend is always in drop. You can imagine here. So we will have less precipitation, less groundwater recharge for the aquifer. Now, if we analyze this groundwater recharge, so it is important to note that we will have a reduction that corresponds well to the climate arid regime that we found already when we studied this climate type. And if we consider the whole period from 21 until 22, so this recharge will become 2.9 million cubic per meter per year, and for RCP scenario, and 2.6 million cubic meter per year for the pessimist scenario. So we see already that for both scenarios we have less discharge, less groundwater recharge for this aquifer. So at the end, if we compare between both scenarios, so we will find a decrease of 7%, which is expected in 2065, for instance, and 30% by 2080. Right? So the results here show also that the future aquifer recharge will be more affected for both periods, and for the rest of the time, and it confirms that the groundwater recharge will be decreasing more over time under both scenarios. This is just for one area that is located in the Mediterranean region, and also we can for the whole area of Morocco we'll have less groundwater recharge. The problem is for the coastal area that we have a mean sea level change due also to climate change, and you can see already here some result that the rise in the sea level is inevitable, but its short-term development depends little on our current emissions. However, by the end of the century, this emission can change their magnitude considerably in the longer term, 3 centuries. So let's say a scenario of 4 degrees, for instance, in 2000 by the end of the century, can lead to an increase of several meters. And you can see here, for instance, for our region, for the region located on the Atlantic Ocean, so we will have the increase of the mean sea level in the area. This is some measurements that have been already done, and here this is the measurement, and here this is the prediction of the mean sea level for our region located on the Atlantic Ocean, a little bit south of Tangier. So this is the area. The area is here located. This is the year. This is Tanger is here. It's a little bit something around 60 kilometers from here. So the area is 305 square kilometers, and we studied the impact of the mean sea level rise for this area, and this is what we found. So you can see here already the drawdown in the area, which is already decreasing. This is for the measurements between 60 and 2004. We can see already that we have already some drop of the drawdown. And what is important is the problem of the seawater intrusion. As you can see here, for instance, by 2040, I am not going to go into details, but I am showing you here that we will have more seawater intrusion. Look, for instance, here for 3 scenarios that we have studied, that for scenario number 1, it's only 0.5 kilometers that we will have an extent of seawater intrusion in the aquifer, while for scenario 2, we will have something like 3.5 kilometers. But for the pessimist scenario, we will have a very dangerous situation, because we will have an extent of seawater intrusion around 5 kilometers, and it will reach even some pumping wells, which are used used for drinking water of the area of Larache, is a city here, and you have also some villages that are supplied from this field, this groundwater field. So that means that we have to do some planning measures in order to protect the groundwater from seawater intrusion. So this is another area. The third area is located in the Atlas region. The Atlas region, that means it is located near the mountain. And the objective of the study for the area is to model the impact of climate change for groundwater resources. So I will just introduce the location of the area, which is located in the Omar Basin, between the high central Atlas and the south and the phosphate highlands in the north. So it covers an important agricultural area that produces beet cultures to supply 3 important sugar industrial units in Morocco. And it is described also as a multi-layer system made up of 3 main hydrogeological units closely dependent on the Playa Quaternary. The main supplier of water resources for drinking water of several urban centers of the area, and the industrial water supply of the OCP installation of the process of phosphate washing beside the water requirement of the agriculture of the large irrigated perimeter of Tedla. So the purpose of the area is the assessment of the climate change on the groundwater resources availability and use in Morocco, especially on the groundwater abstraction from the Tedla aquifer complex system that supply that supplies domestic water and well as large irrigated area in the Atlas region. So you can see here already the distribution of the agriculture development centers. So we have different centers here in the area, and they are really irrigated. All here we have the irrigation from surface water and also groundwater. Both are used here, but in the upstream we have mainly the area irrigated from the aquifer, from pumping. So you can see here the key issues and also the problem addressed. So as I said before, the RICAR initiative has shown that we will experience rising in temperature and decrease in the precipitation, and hence groundwater will be affected by climate change due to the reduction in this natural recharge from reduced precipitation and the increase in evapotranspiration caused in part by high temperature. So the pilot study here that we used in order to show if we can have the availability of water and how it will vary due to climate change, and can we extend the irrigated area, especially a sector based on groundwater supply, and what are the best management schemes of the groundwater due to this climate change, so based on result, of course. So you can see already here from this figure that we have less precipitation. For both climate data or climate models that we used, we have less data. So we have here SCP in red is the pessimist scenario, and in blue we have the optimist scenario. And for both we have decrease of precipitation. So what we used is the coupling, the climate model and hydrological model in order to assess this climate change on the groundwater. And we are using both scenarios, of course, and the climate data are based on the RECAR study. That the RECAR is the regional initiative for the climate change in the Arab region. So we would like to draw up RECAR region climate modeling projection and regional hydrological modeling output as the basis for generating an analysis of climate change impact on the Omar River Basin. And we have to develop a three-dimensional conceptual model to design it and to simulate a comprehensive set of physical processes. And we have to compare and to calibrate and verify with the observation after, of course, constructed the model. So we developed a 3D model in steady state, and which was followed by a transient model, and again a management model that includes the effect of climate change on the tidal aquifer system using this RECAR data and hydrological modeling and coupling for both scenarios across the same time period from 2020 to 2100. So before starting this modeling issue, we have to build a database. So we collected all the data under which articulate the database, and they were collected from various local and regional organizations in the area, and also from the ministry, and from the Ministry of Agriculture, from the Ministry of Water, from regional hydraulic department, and so on. And we have included also the climate data that we got from the RECAR database. And finally, we got a very good database that can be used for designing and developing a groundwater flow model. So this is the local data that we got for the area. So we can see already here that the temperature are mainly increasing. So you can see, so this is the temperatures that are mainly increasing while precipitation are decreasing. And you can see already here the decrease of the precipitation for both scenarios. This surely will have negative impact on water resource availability in the study area. The main trends for SCP 8.5 is relatively much stronger. As you can see, this slope, you can see it already. This is relatively much stronger as temperature increase more and precipitation decrease more. So, and we will get the recharge. So the recharge is very also is following the same trends as the precipitation. You can see it here already because we have less surface water that will irrigate the area, and we will have also less natural recharge from precipitation in the local area. So this is the model. I will go here just to show you that we have developed the steady state model in the area, and we got at the end the groundwater balance. And we have verified also this model because we have to do this. You have to calibrate the model first, and we have to make also verification in order to use it for management at the end. So we verified the model, and you can see already here that we have some good agreement with the measurements. And we have to develop it again for steady state in transient conditions, and we see here the calibration in transient conditions, and we got also groundwater balance in transient conditions. So we calculated the water balance for the year, for instance, 94-95, and this showed that the result obtained agree very well with those of the balance of the model in steady state established for the same period. Furthermore, the intra-annual variation in the storage of the area it doesn't change at the annual scale. So again, we simulated the model for the year 2070 and 2090, and we got this result. And of course, it is also we have also calculated the groundwater balance for both years, 2018 and 2019. And so we have a water balance, and this is very important. It's a key element for the decision makers, because based on the water balance, the decision maker can make some decision on water resources planning or water resources management. So here, this is the result, which is important, is to get the result from the climate change. Here we got the result from the modeling of the impact of climate change based on this recap data, and we use the 3 climate models, as you can see here. And here we have the contours of the piezometric maps. You see the 3 piezometric maps, and on the right we see already here the drawdowns in some monitoring wells. For instance, from 2020 until 2100, you see already here that we have a severe situation for RCP 8.5 for the pessimist scenario, and also some drop of the drawdown for the RCP 4.5. That means for the optimist, we have, of course, it's not, we will have drop of drawdown, but less severe than the pessimist scenario. So you can see the pessimist scenario, you can see it here. The same, if we analyze, for instance, the water balance, we can see how the storage and the stocking of the aquifer is varying between 2020 and 2000 and the end of the century. And you see for the RCP 4.5, we will have some decrease, so less storage, and we have also the stocking of the aquifer. But the situation for RCP is very severe, so we will have all the time the stocking of the aquifer. That means we are going for the aquifer depletion. The same here for the simulation of the impact of climate change. So if you use the average of the 3 climate models, we have these results, and you can see the results for different years. For instance, here the 2021-2022. This is the results, the distribution of the contour lines. That means the piezometric maps. This is the result for 2030-2031 for both scenario. Of course, the red is the optimist, the pessimist, and the blue lines are for the optimist scenario. This is the result also for the mid-century, and for the end of the century we see already this result, and we can see always we have decrease of the groundwater level in the aquifer. Here we are showing the result derived from this project, and we see here for the 3 scenario, for the 3 climate models, we see already here the drawdowns for the 2 scenarios. You see already here, this is decrease of the groundwater level for some monitoring wells, and we see here the RCP with 8.5, and you see RCP 4.5 for the piezometers are located in the area, well distributed in the area. Here you see, we see already the same thing. We have always a trend for drop. So this is a drop trend for all the piezometers. That means for all the monitoring wells, we have this. So we don't have, really the situation is very severe because we have less precipitation. So less groundwater recharge and less irrigation. And of course, the aquifer will not be recharged too much. And we will have some destocking of the aquifer. So let's now analyze the groundwater balance for both scenarios. So if we take, for instance, the RCP 4.5 scenario, we see here the variation, the graph here is the variation of the groundwater balance, and we see that by the mid-century, we will have really the minimum of the destocking of the aquifers. While for the RCP 8.5, the pessimist scenario, we will have something severe. We will have minimum, the minimum by 2080, 2085. But for both, we have the stocking of this. But with a particular situation here, we see that from 2020 to 2050, we will have drought based on RCP 4.5 scenario. So we will have all the time here droughts. We have the stocking of the aquifers, but we will have improvement of the situation starting from something by mid-century. So the second mid-century, we will have some improvement of the situation. While for RCP 8.5, we will have all the time severe situation, the stocking of the aquifer all the time. We don't really gain anything. We have always a drop of the water balance. Let's now analyze what will happen for the aquifer itself and also for the wells, and what will be, for instance, the dry areas in the aquifer. So from this analysis of the aquifer piezometry at the end of the century shows several sectors of the aquifers that will be partially or completely dried up. For RCP 8.5 scenario, all the pumping wells crossing the first layer will be dried. That means that all the wells located in the first layer will be dried, as well as over an area of 68.5 square kilometers over the second layer. And we will have 30 square kilometers of the last layer completely dried. Whereas for the scenario 4.5, the optimist, so the dried area are relatively reduced to 4.5 square kilometers on the second layer and only 1 kilometer square of the third layer. So you can see it here. This is the RCP 4.5, and this is at the end, the S3, we will have this area dried, and here the area will be dried in the third layer, while here for RCP 1.5, look, for instance, as a large area will be completely dried up here for second layer, and for the third layer, we will have this area. The third layer is the last layer for the aquifer. So finally, as a conclusion, we see already that the situation is not improved for this aquifer, and especially by the end of the century. So groundwater resources in the system will be affected by climate change for the 3 case studies that we have seen, due to a reduction of natural recharge from reduced precipitation. And the mean, for instance, in the Tadla aquifer, which is located in the Atlas mountain, the mean will be 20% less at the end of the century, and for RCP 4.5, and 50% less for RCP 8.5. While the increase in evapotransit will cause in part by higher temperature. So the mean of temperature is the increase is 2 degrees for RCP 4.5 and 4 degrees for RCP 8.5 at the end of the century, of course. So in terms of water availability in the aquifer, it will decrease for both scenarios, showing a severe situation for RCP 8.5 scenario. This will result in groundwater table decrease for both scenarios, varying from 10 meters for RCP 4.5 to more than 25 meters for RCP 8.5, which makes some aquifer area completely dry. So finally, these results are of great importance as key information for decision makers regarding the future of sustainable exploitation of groundwater resources in the aquifer. And the result of the RCP 8.5 scenario present a great concern for the future of irrigation agriculture in the study area, since some farms will be abandoned due to the availability of groundwater. On the other hand, the result of RCP 4.5 scenario are less severe, but will require rational and economical management of water resources. Finally, at the end, what will be the adaptive measures that will account for this impact of climate change? Indeed, we need to improve productivity in the agriculture sector, which are urgently needed, such as extensive reconversion of gravity irrigation to drip irrigation, and adapted crops that are water efficient and more resilient to climate change. And we have also to assess impact of climate change on groundwater that will have a lot of consequences for the entire region, and seek operational measures for the adaptation and management of groundwater system in adaptive and optimal manner. Otherwise, we don't have other way to mitigate against this climate change. So thank you very much for your attention, and I am ready for the questions at the end of the session.
Thank you very much, Professor Larabi, and thank you very much for showing the courtesy to be with us and sharing your valuable research.
Thank you.
Our next guest is a Nobel laureate, Dr. AZHARI from Qatar. Dr. AZHARI has been awarded with the Nobel Peace Prize in 2007 as a member of the IPCC working group. We were looking forward to hearing his presentation, but due to unfortunate technical problems, Dr. AZHARI couldn't be with us today. Therefore, this was the last presentation in this session, and I would like to announce that this is the end of the session, and the next session will begin at 4:30 p.m. Thank you very much for being with us, and I wish you good health and well-being.